that's my entire purpose now, is to help the blind community to be able to wrangle those benefits of exercise, regardless of if the side of the world thinks it's safe or smart or any of that stuff. But then be able to do that safely but effectively, so that we get all those benefits just like everybody else.
Evan from Incurable Fitness, welcome to the See-Through Podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to chat with me. We have a great episode today. I'm excited about this topic because we're talking about Incurable Fitness. So the word fitness is in there. But you know what? I won't explain it to my listeners. I'll let you explain it. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Evan Schwerbrock. I'm known as the Blind Strength Coach. And I have my master's in kinesiology and also tend to lift a thing or two. So I really love to blend my experience both academically and in the trenches in order to help other blind people, such as myself, to become fitter, happier, healthier individuals. And I do that through my company called Incurable Fitness. It's spelled C-A-N-E and A-B-L-E. Because in spite of what the rest of the world may say, even if you're using a white cane, you're still able to do stuff.
For sure. And you said the word trenches there. Can you describe what the trenches are?
Yeah, so currently the trenches are, I compete in Strongman, if people are familiar with that, where you have to pull the trucks and lift the stones and the logs and all that fun stuff. So I actually got back this weekend from the official Strongman games, do a little adaptive Strongman showcase for that. Nice.
And you kind of have this big claim that you're the strongest blind man.
Yeah, demonstrably that would be true if we look at competitions and everything. Yeah.
Wow. And so let me rephrase that, because I think that's important. I'm talking to the strongest blind man on earth.
So far, yep.
Yeah, that's cool. So let's just hype you up about your strength. Let's hype up your strength. So what makes you say that? Like, in terms of let's go through some lifts and like what are you lifting? Like, what's your best lift?
Probably my deadlift. I've deadlifted 650 pounds or 295 kilos. I had to carry a Volkswagen Beetle on my back. It was just under 600 pounds this weekend, and did that for like 50, 60 feet in under 10 seconds. What else? I've won Illinois Strongest Man against sighted people, America's Strongest Athlete with Disabilities. Just got second in the world in my class, and was first out of all the visually impaired people. That's kind of where I can actually demonstrate that claim. And I've had to pull semi-trucks and do all kinds of crazy junk over the years.
So you came in second in a competition that was for visually impaired as well as non-visually impaired?
Yeah, it was people with disabilities outright.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, 600. What was your deadlift?
650.
How many 45-pound plates is that on each side?
That's 6 and change. It's almost 7 each side.
Sheesh. All right, so you are strong, man.
I try. It's all the farm work from growing up, for sure.
Farm work. Oh, you got the farm strength.
Yep.
That's real.
Oh, yeah. When you have to learn how to manipulate horses, and I always joke that I had to wrestle baby horses, and that was true. I grew up at a vet clinic, so there'd be little baby horses who, had to get surgery, and they had, once they were coming out of that anesthesia, they were actually going to be too wobbly, like very Bambi legs, so you had to make sure to kind of pin them down until they fought you enough. So I was literally just locked in a stall wrestling baby horses until they were, woke up enough to be able to stand and not hurt themselves. So it was a fun way to grow up.
That's awesome. And where'd you grow up?
Middle of nowhere in Illinois, just outside Kewanee, Illinois.
Okay. Were you always, visually impaired?
No, that actually started in between my bachelor's and master's programs. It was 2014, and I was working several different fitness jobs, living back home in between undergrad and graduate school for a year. And then in November, December of 2014, and just all of a sudden my vision was off, and had a couple incidents that let me know something was up, and then we got it figured out that I had developed Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy.
Wow. So it was kind of like it wasn't something that you were pre-diagnosed with?
No, we had a family member who had it and developed it more in the classical sense with let's say how they treated their body and beat it up enough to where the disease wound up manifesting while they were also genetically capable of it. But we weren't really expecting that with me and my health habits and everything like that. But it happened to kick in. So within about 2 weeks, went from correctable vision, driving my truck everywhere, to just put the keys away and figure out how our new life's going to be.
So you obviously, because you mentioned when you were in school, right? It was between your bachelor's and master's degree.
Yep.
And you were working in the fitness industry already, correct?
Correct.
So, and you had the experience on the farm, so you've already had your farm strength. You've had your collegiate strength. So you were physically strong, and then you're hit with this kind of out of the blue kind of diagnosis, and you have to make all these adjustments. How was your mental strength in regards to adapting to, vision loss?
Well, luckily I have a very good support system around me. So my family was, of course, distraught that it was happening, but it was kind of all hands on deck, it felt like. So I gave myself a couple days to kind of, sit on the couch and digest and then move on. There was a lot of, adapting on the fly with the current jobs that I had, and obviously getting rides to those jobs and everything in order to still make it work. And yeah, it was just immediately, let's keep lifting, let's keep working, and still figure it out. So, and then gym wise, was able to continue building my strength, and I'm far stronger, and I've learned a lot more as well, having gone through a master's program, and used to be a visual learner, was able to rewire things a little bit in order to learn more audibly, and it was just instantaneous, kind of having to do with that farm mentality. And then also my mom is beyond tough, and she's like shrugged off cancer a couple of times, and been back to work the next week after treatments, things like that. So I definitely had some good examples in my life in order to keep pushing.
Nice. Yeah, I think that having good role models goes a very long way when you're dealing with difficulties. Yeah, it's underestimated, I think, from a lot of people's standpoints of just having just something to witness that will inspire you when those moments hit you unexpectedly. You can kind of pull from those memories of what you were impressed by yourself.
Definitely, and that's something that I hope to be all the time with all the people I get to work with around the world, is just be a good example of what can be done, and make it very clear that I'm not unique in that way. Other people can push and adapt as well.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think what's neat about that too is that you said you were able to even increase your strength after your diagnosis. So I feel like most people would hear, you were training, were diagnosed, lost vision, and then your strength somewhat plateaued or diminished over time. But what you're saying is you actually got stronger.
Oh yeah.
Is it
way bigger, way stronger? I hadn't competed at all in strongman until I think 3 years after my vision went and everything. So I picked up an entirely new sport that's all based on nothing is ever the same, and it's always going to be adapt and go with the flow. So everything is always just on the fly in strongman. So for some reason I picked that, but was still plenty capable.
So let's talk about strongman, because I feel like people have maybe seen it on TV, or I remember it would pop up on like ESPN sometimes when I was growing up, mm-hmm. and I would watch some competitions, and I would see them like lift a huge, boulder up on this platform, or they're lifting or huge logs. They're kind of having to push them up and walk and push them over. Is that the kind of exercises you're doing, or am I thinking of the TV version of things?
No, you're spot on. It was actually a a magazine cover from Muscle and Fitness, where Derek Poundstone was holding that giant stone against his chest and everything. That got me thinking about strongman, thinking it was cool. And then of course the classic example of being able to see it on ESPN and everything every year. And yeah, so that's exactly what I get to do. Not always in different countries and stuff. I've only competed internationally once, but yeah, all kinds of crazy venues and crazy events you get to do.
That's awesome, man. So how different is your training? Because I know those exercises are so specific that they're not like traditional, bench press and squat. do you do those exercises and try to increase your weight with training with those exercises, or do you use other exercises to kind of supplement that? Or, is it kind of like a mixture of doing the actual exercises as well as other lifts to kind of increase your strength?
Yeah, great question. So it tends to be a mix. You're never going to have the exact implement they're using, or at least most of the time. And you're not going to be able to necessarily predict what little changes there are going to be on game day as well. So a lot of it is just try to get strong in certain movement patterns and then be able to transfer that over. For example, I knew that I had to carry a big, heavy metal shield at America's Strongest Athlete with Disabilities, but I didn't have access to anything like that. What I did have at our gym was one of the other members has a 300-something pound sandbag. So I lifted that, whether it be wide or tall, and got used to manipulating that and having that load on me in a couple different ways. And that's what allowed me to build the strength and the comfortability with something that heavy on your chest to be able to move the giant metal shield at the actual competition. So you're hoping you can train the exact thing, but a lot of times, it's more unique stuff. And we have like some stones that I've made that are in our garage and everything, but they're not always heavy enough, or sometimes even a slightly different diameter. But it's a lot of get as strong as you can and train as close as you can to some of the competition stuff. But in the end, just do what you can that's going to transfer the best, and then go hard at the competition.
Okay. And how many days of the week are you training?
I like to train 5 times a week, and then I'll do a little bit of something the other 2 days a week, just depending on kind of what recovery needs to be like. So had some fun high volume squats yesterday, so I was doing some stretches to try to be smart and get my hamstrings behaving a little bit better today.
Okay, so 7 days a week you're doing something.
Yeah, and 2 of those days are very much next to nothing, and like walking the dog and things like that. But I was trying to kind of just make sure the body's a little bit more prepared for the other days.
And do you look forward to those 2 days, or is it more of like, oh, I can't wait to get back? Or are those 2 days a nuisance, or do you kind of welcome those rest days?
I got so used to workouts being the best part of my day there for a while, especially when I was in that adaptation period and going through some of the harder times, that I do really crave the gym all the time. It just always feel like I can make this the best part of my day, and I know there's at least one giant win in my day. So I always love being in the gym. Okay,
so it sounds like you kind of use your workouts to kind of process your vision loss and digest it a little bit more, or to get some, maybe release some stress, release some anger. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I can treat it like therapy a lot of times, but also it's kind of just like, if you're able to add 5 pounds or do another couple of reps or something, that you're making progress and have a win in the day, especially when you're not quite adapted to vision loss yet, and it comes on, especially as quickly as it does with my disease. There's a lot of days where you're like, I don't know what the heck is going on, or I messed this up, or I had no clue how to do this yet, and I'm still working on that. It was really frustrating, but then you go to a place and make very clear progress, and that was always reassuring to me. Okay,
so you kind of like having the tangible result of progress. You like to experience it firsthand, and that's kind of the beauty about fitness and working out and weightlifting is you'll see and feel it, and you'll do more weight.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then you become more capable of things that maybe you didn't think you were capable of. I was a tiny little nerdy kid growing up and never thought I would be in this position. So it's pretty cool what those little wins every day add up to.
Oh, 100%. Because it's, for example, like in the creative field, I work as a video editor, as my, day job. And I run this podcast for fun on the side. Sometimes it's kind of hard to know if am I getting better at video editing? Am I getting better at podcasting? And sometimes it's nice, like if I have an episode that performs well, I'm like, okay, I'm growing. Like my subscriber count's growing, my listeners are growing, my stats are growing. And there's something so rewarding about that, because this podcast takes a lot of work, so it's nice to have a reward for hard work, and it's almost It's not guaranteed in creative field, but it is guaranteed in weightlifting and strength training.
For sure. You can always rig it to have a PR every day as long as you're creative enough.
Yeah. As long as you don't injure yourself, in the process.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, I know my listeners are intrigued by learning more about your fitness routine because I am right now. But the main thing I wanted to talk to you about is because, this year's closing out, and most of the time in the new year, people are setting fitness goals. They kind of wait for that, moment to kind of get that kick in their butt, to kind of, make a plan for their fitness and to kind of prioritize it. And I kind of wanted to bring you on and talk to you because I wanted to not only learn your story, but I also wanted to basically get some expert tips out there on how to get started. You're using a white cane. You're setting records. You can deadlift over 600 pounds. These are very, very, very impressive things that take years and years and years of training and hard work. But I don't want people to hear that and then feel like overwhelmed either. I kind of want to talk to you about just and we already kind of have talked about it a little bit, like the mental health benefits of it. Like you mentioned, you like working out. It was the best part of your day, and you kind of used fitness to kind of work through certain things. You described it. You said it could be your therapy even. So I wanted to talk about the not only the physical benefits, but the mental benefits, and then just how people who are visually impaired, legally blind, blind or disabled can, if they've never been to a gym, they've never started a workout routine, if they're brand new to it, but they're interested in it, what would you advise for them? Let's go down that road.
Cool. Yeah. I can go all kinds of different directions with this. This is what I get to talk about at conferences and seminars that organizations bring me in for. So this is definitely the more dominant part of my passion. I think I'm just putting myself through some of the strongman stuff because it's pretty fun. But it helps show that I walk the walk as well. But I definitely am all about people at whatever level being able to accomplish their goals. So the first thing that came to mind when you were saying that was setting appropriate goals. I've had a lot of issues, and I used to teach future trainers to be trainers, basically, at a college level. And so when I was being a professor doing that, I would start semesters with like, hey, let's learn how to make a good goal so that you can help your clients in the future to be able to set a proper goal. And it's cliche, but we can use the SMART goal routine, which I think everybody should overthink and make sure that they have the appropriate goals. So a lot of people are like, I want to get lean, or I want to lose weight, or I want to build muscle. Like, those are very nebulous goals, and we got to make sure that we follow a bit of a framework. So the SMART goal framework is simply an acronym that's specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable or relevant, and time-bound. So if we think about that, and I'll just go through it really quick. It's got to be specific. So it has to be not just I want to get lean. It's I want to lose a certain amount of body fat, and then you could say like 5% body fat in 3 months, something like that. And then it needs to be measurable. So if you want to lose that much body fat, you go, okay, well, how am I going to measure that? I can't just like, especially with us visually impaired people, we can't just like take pictures or look at ourselves in the mirror. That's not a very reliable test for us. But instead you could get it checked like by DEXA or BIA, or if you have a scale, it'll do it, or an InBody, or however you're going to be able to get that measured, make sure that you actually can do that for a start, and then maybe some sort of progress update in the middle, and then at the end. Is it attainable? So, for people, I've had people go, I'm going to lose 30 pounds of fat in 3 weeks. You're like, no, that's not going to work, because there's 3,500 calories per pound of fat. That simply is not going to work out very well, and is thermogenically impossible. So let's make sure that it actually is attainable. Like, does that actually make sense in the physical universe that we are bound by? Then is it relevant? Like me, I'm trying to maintain body weight and maybe even gain 5 pounds slowly throughout the rest of my next 3 blocks of training. So me going, I want to lose 5% body fat, that doesn't make sense to my overall goals. Again, if somebody is like 6'3", 130-pound dude, and he should probably be gaining muscle. He can't go, I just want to get super lean, because like you're rail thin already. So probably a better goal is the other direction of gain an appropriate amount of muscle. So that's the relevant part, if it actually makes sense to just overall what you should be pursuing. And then time bound. Again, I brought up like 5% body fat in 3 months. That's going to make sure that it's not just like, oh, at some point I want to have accomplished this. And instead, that gives you a start date, an end date, and it really helps to bookend things for you. So by following that SMART goal sort of system, then you're going to be able to have a lot better chance of being able to keep yourself in check, and then also have some good in-between goals from there as well.
Yeah, that's super practical advice. Let's say you have decided you're going to start your fitness journey. You've never started one before, and you come up with your SMART goal or goals. Then what?
Well, if we're speaking about the blind community, I would just work on being used to a gym setting or used to your home workout setting, however you're going to do that. And I have clients that I work with and they go to the gym. I have clients that I work with and they're more comfortable at home and have some equipment or have even very little equipment, and we're able to make a lot of things happen. But just that consistency and lowering the barrier for entry. I get a lot of people too who, especially beginning of the year, they get really like, I'm going to go to the gym, blah, blah, blah. And then they walk in the first week of January and they're like, I don't know what the heck is going on. And there's just so many obstacles and issues that they haven't worked their way through yet, or don't have some sort of framework in order to work through, that it gets overwhelming, which makes sense. Like you're going to try to change all these different habits and change your body, and you're going to get sore and it's going to hurt for the first week or so. And you're trying to figure out how the heck these different machines work, and there's people, trying to take the spot you're at and everything. It's much better to try to lower the amount of obstacles in the way. So on our website, we actually have a free gym acclimation program, and that has been used by a lot of people. I'm always surprised about hearing people who have used this program, or I just actually got word from a college professor that some of their students are citing this program, which is hilarious to me, that I'm getting cited in college classes. But that program is an easy way to just 2 workouts a week for 3 weeks, stair step you into being at the gym. And if we think about why the gym is so overwhelming, it's because a lot of us will walk in and with our limited vision or no vision go, I don't know what the heck is going on, but I know there's a lot. So I'm really big on chunking in order to make sure that you are able to just learn certain areas that make sense. Day one, you need to know where the bathroom is. That's something a lot of people accidentally gloss over. But important things like that. If you're going to be doing a dumbbell workout, you don't need to figure out what every machine is. You need to figure out the order of the dumbbells, have somebody help you out with that, or learn how to get tactile sensations and memorize the order they're in. Little things like that to make that area really helpful for you and be able to do a good workout there. And then maybe the next time you explore some of the machines. So chunking that out and lowering the obstacles and not making it seem so daunting is a really, really good way to start. And I always encourage people to not wait till New Year's. If you really want to hit the ground running, you need to make sure that you're walking first and have a general understanding of the space that you're going to be working out in. And I think that program could be very helpful for a lot of people.
Oh, 100%. And for those interested, I'll have a link to that program. I'll have a link in the episode description, as well as the website, Cane Enable website, as well as the Cane Enable Instagram. So basically, if you need to get in touch with Evan and you want to look into anything he's talking about, you'll have an easy reference there to click on. So yeah, I think, that makes total sense that people would get discouraged. They're going to go to the gym in January. That's when everyone else has the same idea. All the machines are taken. There's a lot more people on the floor. And if you're visually impaired, it's overwhelming. You're like, oh, I don't want to bump into somebody. And if you're new to the gym, this is something I think is real. You kind of feel, when you're new to the gym, you kind of feel self-conscious that people are watching you. And you're worried about how you look doing your exercises. You're worried, like, do I look silly doing this exercise? Am I having the right form? Do I know how to use this machine? This is all scary, so it's absolutely fair for a lot of people to get discouraged and kind of intimidated and nervous about going to the gym for the first time, because it's kind of like learning a new language in a way, you know. Luckily, like I played high school sports and I played high school football, so I was kind of, you know, weightlifting and strength training and conditioning was part of my schooling routine for almost 2.5 years. It was like booked into my day. Mm-hmm. So I learned a lot just through that. So luckily I've retained a lot of knowledge from that era of my life, even though, you know, I live the opposite of football now. I sit at a desk all day. So, but I still go to the gym. I have periods where I'm very, very good about it, and I'm hitting 3 workouts a week, and then I'll have a period where I'm doing once a week. But the main thing is, like, I just try to keep at it, you know, and the more I work out, the better I feel. And when I don't get a chance to work out, it really makes me cranky, and it makes my mental health suffer. But I'm by no means like a fitness expert, and I'm by no means someone that you'd want to follow on Instagram for their fitness advice, which is why I brought you on. But I guess I'm just sharing that, you know, from my background on it, because I notice, like, if I go to the gym with my wife or with a friend who's never who didn't play high school football and it's not really familiar with certain things, that they're more timid in the gym and they're more, you know, nervous to try new lifts, or, you know, I can kind of just go off and do a workout, no problem. Whereas they're like, I have no clue what to do. And then they end up doing the same exercises over and over again because it's the only exercises they know how to kind of pull off. Mm-hmm. So yeah, basically, if you're one of those people, it's fair, it's justifiable. But the only way for you to get to not feel that way is to go enough and learn enough to where you don't feel that way. It's kind of like one of those things where it's just like, you just kind of have to rip the band-aid off and get comfortable being uncomfortable. And just once you get started, you'll learn as you go. Just like with any new hobby, you're not going to be good at first. And then once you're in, and that's when the fun begins. But it's not going to be that fun up front. And another thing I want to bring up, and I'm going to let you speak on it because you know way more about it than me. But another thing I noticed with my amateur experience around fitness is people will expect too much, kind of going back to your SMART goals. They'll expect too much out of their results. You know, they'll think like they're going to see this massive change in their physique with, 1 month of training, 2 months training, 3 months of training, and as someone who's, worked out pretty regularly, I know that you see the amount of changes that people imagine they're going to see in like a month or two is more than likely what they're going to get in a year or maybe even a couple of years. So it's just like not getting discouraged and just kind of understanding that it is kind of a long-term game you're kind of signing up for. It's kind of like it's kind of twofold where, yeah, it's going to be discouraging at first. It's going to be awkward at first, but you'll get more comfortable with it the more you do it. Also, it's a long journey. Fitness is a lifelong journey. So I'll let you take it from there. But yeah, I just that's my 2 cents. That's about all I know.
You make some really good points. So that is definitely one of my big pet peeves when people are like, oh, I don't want to lift weights or work out too much. I'm going to get too bulky. And no one expects like, hey, I'm going to be in kindergarten for 1 month and I'm going to be too smart. Like I'm going to be done. Mm-hmm. And it's funny how people think that they're just going to be like, have won the genetic lottery for being able to just grow muscle and get way too big and strong. Cause I'm like, man, that'd be nice. I wish that was the case for me. Like that'd be great, but that's, really never the case. So it's all about, like you said, longevity in the long run. So I really want the blind population to be able to learn how to overcome these things, because the gym, when we think about it, is really just manufactured adversity. It's just we've gotten so weak as a society and don't have as much farm work and, have to wrestle baby horses all the time, that we have to construct
True.
these big rooms with like iron plates and bars to put them on and little dumbbells and like other kinds of like widgets to be able to make things hard for us, because we don't have enough physical adversity in our lives, and we have to move those things in certain ways in order to then build up our bodies. So like we're incredibly blessed in that way. But again, then especially for the blind community, it's going and practicing, adapting, and overcoming adversity. And so once you practice that daily, or however many times is appropriate for you to work out, then you get to take those lessons there and go like, oh, I didn't think I could do 3 sets of 20 at that weight, but I was able to, and now I know I'm going to be even stronger and fitter for it the next time. You get to transfer that into the rest of life as well. I remember the first time, or like my first week of grad school, I had lost my sight. I was a visual learner before. I used to be able to just like read the chapter summary at the end of my books for tests that I didn't even know that I had until my friends told me at the beginning of class, like, oh, we have a test. Okay, I'll read the chapter summary. Good to go. I'll get A's. Which was, I don't advise, but I was blessed in that way. And then I had to learn I am not a visual learner anymore. And once my sight went, I had to completely rewire everything. So I was still in that process. I had a professor sit me down my very first week in graduate school. I'm scared to death. I had just gotten my first white cane like 2 days before. And she takes me aside and sits me down and just says, basically, you don't belong here. You can't cut it. You need to figure out a different school to go to. And I was like, oh my gosh. It was crazy. And I was almost just like, maybe she's right, because I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I have not adapted yet. But then I wound up having a better GPA in the master's program because of my consistency and just trying to day by day overcome that adversity and learn a little bit more, and just hone how I was able to do things and have, like I said, a better GPA than I did in undergrad with correctable vision. So that's where I see a lot of the benefits of the gym. Sure, you get to be physically more healthy, and I have all kinds of fun case studies about people turning their health around or being able to do things at any age that they didn't think they were able to do. But it's that mental aspect as well, like we discussed. It's so good for your mental health. It actually helps you to learn better by outputting these things, these different neurotransmitters. There's one called brain-derived neurotrophic factor that is literally, you exercise, your brain puts it out more, and it helps create a better brain. It helps to amplify different connections. And if you think about it from like an evolutionary standpoint, that's because, we'd be encountering danger, and your brain's like, I do not want to even risk dying with whatever the heck just happened there. Let's rewire and learn a lesson from that. So it actually helps you learn better. There's just so many benefits to exercise that's my entire purpose now, is to help the blind community to be able to wrangle those benefits of exercise, regardless of if the side of the world thinks it's safe or smart or any of that stuff. But then be able to do that safely but effectively, so that we get all those benefits just like everybody else.
Yeah, and I love, you're a perfect example because you're really pushing the boundaries. You're not only are you like advocating for the blind community to hit the gym, but you're not just saying, hey, figure out how to get on the treadmill and do walk for an hour on the treadmill, which is great, by the way. Great exercise to do, especially starting out. But you're actually being like, no, you can do strongman activities. You can deadlift, and you can basically do anything in the gym. It's going to take some mental fortitude and learning it especially if you're blind. Mm-hmm. But you're trying to basically say, hey, it doesn't have to be simple. Your exercises don't even have to be that simple. They can be simple, which is great, but they also can be complex. So if you wanted them to, if that's something you're interested in,
Exactly. And that's the whole thing. You bring up another really good point. I really do strive to be tip of the spear. I don't try to get anybody else doing what I'm doing, especially with my scoliosis and all the fun stuff that I get to wreck my body with. But it's all relative, like you said. Another example, I had to use my legs and have been building up my squat in order to, randomly carry a car on my back like I did last Thursday. But to be able to get big, strong legs or be able to use your hips appropriately, things like that can help in really simple ways too. I was doing a seminar down in Medellin, Colombia, and there was this sweet older lady who was very, very quiet at first, and I worked with some of the physical therapy students there at this disability center, and she was having to be translated because my Spanish wasn't very good then. And she was basically saying like her knees hurt all the time whenever she sits and stands out of a chair. So, side or not, if just sitting and standing out of a chair really hurts your knees, you're probably going to be a lot more sedentary, right? You're not going to want to get up. You're almost going to start fearing just standing up and moving. So we adjusted her squat stance a little bit, had her be able to utilize her hips a lot better, and it'd be less of a knee dominant squat. And then she was able to stand. And it took 2 minutes. This is a fix that I use a lot with people. I produced multiple different articles and videos on it because I believe so passionately that this can help a ton of people. And she was so happy that she was able to sit and stand without fear and without pain that she came to my next session at a completely different university and insisted on talking about how helpful it is and how fitness is important even if you are visually impaired. So she was like a hype man before my more sciencey talk, and it was perfect because it's such a great example. Like you don't have to be trying to deadlift 600 pounds, but being able to learn from someone who has had to be a little bit more intellectual in order to stair step you to being able to do whatever you need to capability wise, and then even have a little bit more extra strength, a little bit more cardiovascular ability. So then if you're asked to go on a long hike or something like that, I've been blessed to be able to go just have adventures. Me and my wife were like driving down from Alaska to Arizona, and there was multiple different hikes there, edges of cliffs of Bryce Canyon National Park, things like that. And you get to, of course, err on the side of caution, not go too close to the cliff, but enjoy these really cool experiences, hiking around or being able to just say yes to things. And that's exactly why I want people to build up their fitness. I'm not trying to compete against anybody else. Don't need anybody trying to come take any titles or anything. I just want to be fit enough to be able to enjoy their lives all the more. And hopefully I get to make that a little bit easier for them.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to make. And that's something that I would like to talk about, because it's like, people think of fitness as this vanity project, and sometimes it can be, and to be honest, like if that's what drives you to go to the gym, cool. But it doesn't have to be a vanity project. And what I mean by that is like a lot of people think like, oh, I don't need to be jacked. I don't need to have a 6-pack abs. I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm comfortable with the way I look and the way my physique is. And to that, I'll say that's awesome, but you're kind of missing the point. There's the health benefits in terms of heart health, joint health, just strength. As we age, I'm 34 now. Basically, to keep my testosterone at a decent level, I need to lift weights, or else my testosterone is going to diminish, and then I'm going to feel the effects of that, and that's going to be low. I'm going to have less energy in my day-to-day life. Mm-hmm. There's fertility issues with that. There's all sorts of things. So it's like, it's basically what I'm trying to say is you're not getting any younger. If you're listening to this podcast, you're most likely not a young buck, in high school, So if you're listening to this, you're probably not on the younger side. And if you are, that's awesome. But you should keep it up as you age. But for I guess my example is like, take me for example. I want to be able to do a hike like you mentioned. I want to be able to walk around New York City where I live with ease. I don't want to have, going up the stairs in the subway station and I'm like out of breath. Mm-hmm. I want to have energy in my day-to-day life so I can video edit all day and then hop on a podcast interview like I'm doing today, and then take my dog for a walk, and then send a bunch of emails, run some errands. Like, I want to have energy. I got shit to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, and also, you do get the vanity aspects of it in return. So that's cool. So you get more energy in your day-to-day life. You get the health benefits, in terms of your hormones. And then you get the mental health benefits because when you exercise, it releases dopamine in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so it literally makes you happy. It's literally like a chemical drug. It's like the OG SSRI,
Mm-hmm.
and then you also, get the vanity aspect. You look better. You look better in your clothes. You look better. You feel better. It's just kind of a no-brainer. There's literally no downside to working out at all. The only downside is it can take a lot of time. You just kind of find a time to put in your schedule. But anytime I hear someone who's just like, "Oh, I don't need to go to gym. I like the way," I'm kind of like, "Shut up,"
Yeah. Trying not to get too high on my soapbox here, but yeah, that is definitely a thing that's pervaded in our society these days, especially with people with disabilities. They're just like, "Oh, you're fine how you are." Sure, you're valuable as a human being, but also everyone deserves to push themselves. There's this whole cliche of like the fat, sloppy, out of shape blind person. I have been told about this all the time. They're like, you're an anomaly. Same with you, Lance. You'd be considered an anomaly. You have people coming up to conferences going, that is crazy you do that because it is such an exception to the rule. I speak for teachers of visually impaired, orientational mobility specialists, different professors for adaptive physical education, and it is not normal. There are studies done about like physical activity levels in the blind community. One of them had the brilliant conclusion that physical activity increases quality of life in blind people. It's one of those studies I call the no duh study. It's like, why do we put any effort into this? Like, everyone knows that. But it's because there is such this pervasive trend in the blind community that a lot of people are too accepting of their lot in life or what they think it is, and they don't want to to quote like a Heath Ledger movie, they don't want to like change their stars. There's a lot you can still do. I try to be an example of that, and a lot of people choose not to. Let's be honest too, society is definitely leaned against us as any sort of marginalized community, whether it be disabled, different socioeconomic status, everything like that. And there's a big intersectionality issue when it comes to disabled people. You don't have the money to be able to buy a ton of workout equipment, tend to get paid less, or be less employed, all these different issues. Like, kind of got to fight back against that and make sure that you push back against all these things anyway. I don't know how many times I was writing an article about this, so I'm like pre-revved up, I think. I've had, like, especially when I was at the college gym in Chicago, people would just walk up and be like, it was almost like I was turning into the gym mascot. They're like, "Oh, it's so great that you're here." I'm like, I just outlifted everybody. Like, me and my buddy were the strongest people there, and it's because we actually got after it. But him, it was like, Jared's really strong. Evan, good for you. You're here in the building. And it was like, oh my gosh. So society kind of having those effects and going like, "Oh, you don't need to work out. Like, you can sit on the bench. You're blind." All this stuff is a big problem. And man, I'm just really fighting to get the word out and be able to encourage people and lower the difficulty of entry. So we've got 50 something articles on my website. I work with people, and like we were talking about earlier, with somebody doesn't have to be the tip of the spear for the blind community. They just have to be able to get fit enough to, again, enjoy their life. You made me think about one of my online clients who I trained all the way in Texas, and she was getting more and more out of shape and having all these, mental issues and everything like that as well that came with it, with getting more out of shape and not being able to do as much. And we've been working on stuff, and it's just at home workouts. And through some decent consistency, she was able to go on like a family trip to New Orleans, and usually she'd be holding back the pack and have to rest a lot and everything like that. And she's like, "No, I was good because of these workouts, and I was just able to go all day and never be a burden or feel like a burden. And we were able to just have fun and keep rolling the whole day, when normally I would have needed a bunch of these breaks and felt really bad. But it was really able to optimize her experience and help her life a lot. So I'll get off my soapbox, but that is a big deal to be able to utilize fitness and weaponize it so that you are then able to thrive. And again, the vanity thing, that can be a bonus. And a lot of people, especially in the sighted world, care a lot more about those superficial things. But don't misconstrue exercise as just a superficial thing, because you did such a great job rattling off all the extra benefits. There's way more than that than just having bigger biceps.
Oh yeah, it's just a no-brainer, and it goes for both men and women. That's another thing with women. They'll think like, going back to a comment you made earlier, they'll say, I don't want to get too bulky. With weightlifting. As a female, and again, it's not going to happen unless you're taking steroids and you're hitting lifting heavy weights consistently. You're not going to look jacked, so it's and it can benefit from a practical standpoint. You're talking about white canes, helping your balance out, and there's practical benefits of being in shape. If you stumble and need to catch your balance, if you're exercising with your legs, like that's gonna help you. You're gonna fall less. You're gonna be able to carry yourself in a more confident manner than if you're more frail with how you walk with your cane.
Yeah, and that brings up a couple of the online programs that I sell. One is called Upright, and it's a fall prevention program made more accessible for the blind community, because it's easier to trip when you're blind. But if you fall, break a hip, especially if you're older, you're starting to circle the drain. So we don't want that. So it's a program that's made to very simply work on the different aspects that you need: the balance, the single leg strength, the muscle endurance, being able to walk better and have that conditioning, all that stuff that is going to help lessen the likelihood of falls. And then also, when you're talking about walking with a white cane, I've heard all kinds of examples, usually from O&Ms, where they're like, my client can't use their wrist and their forearm and their hand long enough to be able to get in much of a lesson. Like, all those tissues get really tired. So I've got another program called Get a Grip with the Blind Strength Coach, where people can buy that and follow the program and use exercise specifically to make sure that they can be more independent. I mean, think about, you need to walk for 20 minutes in order to get to work, like I've had to many times in my life, and you can only make it 10 minutes before your hand gives out. Like that's going to be a real bad time, and you're going to lose a lot of independence and ability to work, contribute to society, get around, go get groceries, all these different things that are going to really suffer. So building up those capacities strategically is another huge passion of mine, where I don't want your physical capacity holding you back from enjoying and thriving in the rest of life.
Oh, 100%. And, it sounds harsh, but you're already low vision or blind. Do you want to have other disabilities added to that, that are honestly preventable? That's one thing that I think people would be surprised at, how much they would enjoy the aspect of, if you have a disability or you live with vision loss, some things are just out of your control, but you can control your exercise. That's something that you can kind of lock in. I'm gonna, even if it's doing push-ups in your room, or figuring out, a at-home workout. You can control your diet, you can control your exercise. These are things you can control, which will benefit you tremendously. And I'll say this: the bar is low even for sighted people. The bar is low for non-disabled people. It says, America is severely, overweight, and not many people are lifting, not many people are exercising. So if you want to have an upper hand, even on people in the sighted world, if you get strong and in shape, you're going to be leagues above most sighted people. So that's kind of a cool thing is like, you know, you can have one up on people that you may feel like you can't have a one up on, you know, if you have this mental block about, you know, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. You know, if you're living with blindness and you get jacked, I guarantee you that you're in the top 1% of America.
Yeah, you're gonna stand out a little.
You know,
bit.
this is something that you can make happen.
Yep.
You know.
Exactly, and it's nice when something's in your control. You know, there's a certain beauty to being able to pick your poison. Like, our bodies are either going to wear out or rust out. You know, you're going to wear out if you actually use it enough to where things eventually are going to fall apart. And of course, I have a lot of rehab exercise background and everything. We try to make sure that doesn't happen for no good reason. But then you could also just do nothing and rust out and, you know, have those metabolic issues and a lot of other pain where you could have gotten joy by doing something and helping prevent those things as well. So, and I can already hear different excuses that I've heard throughout the years. People being like, oh, well, I'm blind, so I can't run. And it's like, well, that's not the only exercise you can do in order to like get your heart rate up. I've written workouts where you don't have to even be able to see the screen on like a rower or a ski erg. And you can do entire workouts just using an audible timer or just counting your strokes in different ways, doing like 5 easy, 5 medium, 5 hard. You roll through that for 10 rounds, you got a heck of a workout. And that's something where you get to sit still, totally safe, good to go. So there's a lot of opportunities where people don't expect there to be accessibility, but if you dig a little bit deeper or be creative, there certainly are. Another big example I really love to use, and there's these kids at this blind sports camp this year in New York, Camp Abilities. They were like, oh, that is sick. And I'm like, I love the enthusiasm. Finally, you know, kids give you another level of boost and you understand just how important the work is. But I had them feel a powerlifting bar that was at this gym. And really all barbells are like this because they were designed to be able to be used for competitions. But there's knurling in certain areas. It tends to be smoother down the middle. If it's a squat bar, you're going to have some knurling, that really rigid graded stuff down the middle, so it sticks on people's backs better. But then you're going to have a smooth portion, and then it's going to come to these smooth little rings, like where people can like put their pinkies and stuff, or then you can line up and make sure that you're doing it right. Again, usually that's for sighted people doing competitions, trying to lift their best weight as possible, blah, 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 and have it nice and consistent. But as a blind person, you can make sure that you're even. You can make sure that you know what kind of bar it is by being able to feel down the middle. You can make sure that you're able to alter your grip. So like right now, I know my usual bench grip and where I put my pinky compared to that smooth ring. And now I'm moving my thumb in, so I'm doing close grip bench presses. It's not even complicated. I don't have to like get worked up and like, oh, I really hope that I'm correct or anything. But there's these built-in little accessibility features all over the gym. And you'd be surprised how many are really simple and actually make you feel a little bit more invited to the gym. So once you start figuring those out, or hopefully, you know, follow some of my stuff so that I'm able to make that journey a little bit easier for you, then you understand like, oh, there's a lot of little tips and tricks that lessen the systemic load, so then I get to just work out hard and not have to worry about these little minutia.
Oh yeah. You know, now that when you were talking about the bar, I was thinking about I was picturing the bar in my mind, and you're exactly right. There is the texture on the bar. That's kind of how I know my hands are equal distance apart from each other. Mm-hmm. But you could easily just feel that and just know as well, which is cool.
Yeah. I do every day, and then I'm sure people might think I'm like petting the bar or something, but like for squats or something, in order to make sure that I walked out and walked back in appropriately, or at least so I know for my next set, I'll like feel the outside of the bar compared to where the rack is. So then I'll have a good idea if it's actually centered or not, and if it's too far off, then I'll slide it and make sure I fix it. But you can just feel how much the outside rim of the barbell, where it would actually spin, is compared to the outside of your hooks, in order to make sure that, you know, you have it lined up properly so your next set is successful as well. So there's a lot of these little hacks that you can do in order to make it a lot easier and not be just worked up with the little things that you're trying to get right. There's a lot of ways to make it easier so that you can just roll. That actually brings up another point that I consider a lot. I've had some people where they're like, my trainer has me like programmed to do these supersets, but like one machine's over here and the other machine's like 30, 50 feet across the gym, and then I have to make my way there and hope that somebody isn't there. I don't like sit on somebody's lap at the other machine, and then I come back and somebody took the other machine, and like it's just a hassle. So a big way that I try to make sure that workouts are easier for navigating purposes is just get all you need to get done in one spot done, and then move on. So you're not just bopping around or losing dumbbells or anything like that, or somebody takes your stuff because it didn't look like you were using it because you're in the other side of the gym. There's a lot of really cool principles you can do to do that. So I'm actually going to be coming out probably in this next year. I'm going to beta test it with some people if people are interested, but do a blind bodybuilding program. And this isn't, again, for people caring to be bodybuilders, but to put on some healthy muscle and be able to do some different things. We're going to have some cool different techniques like drop sets and rest pause, all that keep you working hard in one area. So then you finish up there, at the dumbbells or in a squat rack or something, and then you get to move on to the next thing. So just by segmenting things, that makes it so much easier for everybody.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's all accessible via your website, correct?
Yeah, they can go to the website. They'll probably have to sign up for the newsletter or stay in touch through social media for whenever I put out the announcement that I'm ready for a beta test group.
Sweet. Yeah, I love all the programs you have. It seems very well thought out, and it seems like you're really factoring in a variety of people in their interest and their intentions and their goals, for fitness. Because like we talked about, there's the vanity side, and there's the practical side, and there's the mental health side. So whatever reason it is that you're trying to work out, Evan has a program for you. So definitely reach out to him if you want to learn more. He's excited to help out. The one thing I wanted to talk to you about is to end this episode on is people who can't make it to the gym. Let's say for whatever reason you can't make it to the gym, and that's a lot of people. Whether it's for financial reasons. You live in a rural part of, you live somewhere in a rural part of the state, and there's not a gym nearby. You can't drive, you don't have the vision to drive, what's some home remedies here? What's some good ways to get started at home? Like for example, COVID kind of got a lot of people, figuring out little tricks, because they couldn't go to the gym for a while. People were buying resistance bands. I had a couple kettlebells and resistance bands. I had a couple small dumbbells. I even was lifting my dog food container for my dog. I was using that to lift. I was just desperate to come up with stuff. But yeah, I think, you can get creative at home, and you don't need much space. You can do it in your bedroom. Body weight stuff, I know is good. Mm-hmm. Cardio is a little tricky. I had a jump rope, and that was a good way to get my heart rate up. But yeah, I want to get your advice on, getting set up at home. Yeah, well, this could be a whole full hour lecture again, but when you bring up COVID, that's actually when my brother and I founded K-Enable and got the website going and everything. So I was actually writing a ton of articles and everything during lockdown, and so this definitely came to mind, people having to work out at home. And it was for bad reasons back then. There was one article I wrote, I believe it was called like homeschool gym class or something, that can be found on the blog at kenenablefitness.com. But it's actually just using like your stairs at home and a backpack that you can load up with, cans of soup, whatever you can put in there, and make it an appropriate load for you, and you get a full body workout in with just that. So there's a lot of different possibilities, and I have multiple different articles like that are all doable at home. And then I've had many of my one-on-one clients just be able to work out at home with varying levels of equipment and being able to get them just into the best shape of their lives. So there's a ton of different options. What I would encourage people to do is think about something that you want to get better at that you could use for a little bit more technique work, or if planks are really hard, something like that, just look up Tabata songs or find a Tabata timer, Tabata, and it's literally just 8 rounds of 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. For the 20 seconds of work, just use it as an opportunity to work on something. And again, if you need to be working on like those wide stance chair squats,
then just use that 20 seconds to accumulate work. It doesn't need to be a sprint. You don't need to be like wanting to die after your second 20-second round. And then that 10 seconds, you have to rest. You have to chill the heck out. And just doing that for 8 rounds is really going to inject a lot of volume into your day, especially if you're just starting out. And again, it's less than 4 minutes. So there's some really cool studies though, where they've done people working at higher intensities with this protocol, and it keeps them burning calories and like a metabolic effect for hours afterwards. So imagine working out for 4 or 8 minutes if you do like an upper body, lower body kind of thing, and it's still working for you for hours. So there's a lot of cool different things you can do with that. Like, again, use an audible timer in order to make it work the best possible for you. And yeah, ton of different stuff. So I really love customizing people's different body weight workouts and stuff like that, or what little equipment they have in order to make it work for them. But there's a ton of options. If people have questions, they can certainly reach out, and I do one-on-one programming for people. And then several different articles on our website that hopefully can be helpful without me rambling for an hour.
Oh yeah, there's so many levels to what you can do at home. The gym is preferable because they just have everything in one place, and
there's a social aspect and everything like that. Like, I've met some of my best friends. My wife, coaxed me into us working out together and everything, and she was actually my ride when we were up in Alaska, and we wound up falling in love and everything. So like, a lot of good things can happen when going to the gym and pursuing some healthier, positive habits. But if home is where you have to do those things, we can absolutely hook you up. So hopefully people are not going, oh, I don't have the gym, so I'm not going to do anything. There's so much that you can get done from home.
Yeah. I mean, you can. I had one guest, and he missed going on long walks, so he just walked around in loops in his backyard. If you have space for it, you could always get like a Peloton. You could get a treadmill or an elliptical. You could buy a small set of dumbbells. Like, you could get a small set of kettlebells, resistance bands. You could make in your garage or in a corner of your room. You just kind of have to look at your space that you have available at home, and also your budget and what you have money to spend on, and just make it work with what you have.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. We had barns back home. We didn't have a lot of gym equipment or anything, but I was like cutting up ropes that were from like a hay loft from the early 1900s, and I made gymnastic rings out of toilet bowl rings and chains and stuff. So I just got from Menards and put bubble wrap in there so it didn't hurt so bad on the rings, and hung those up in barn rafters, and that was like my original workout equipment. So like, it's probably hopefully not going to be quite that messed up and hurtful on the hands, but you can make something out of very, very little.
Yeah, you can get a pull-up bar for your doorway.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, get creative. Even like your program you're mentioning with getting a backpack and putting cans of soup in it. So yeah, there's lots of ways to get started, and you can get a good workout in at home. And sometimes it's nice too to mix the two. Like, let's say if you can only get a ride once a week to the gym, try your best to keep that consistency and going, get that ride every week. But then in the days you can't make it to the gym, to be able to kind of do something on your own at your where you live.
Absolutely.
That way you don't have to just, when you're not able to make it to the gym, you're still able to get some sort of exercise in to get those benefits that we talked about. And it will slowly accumulate. The more workouts you do, the more frequent and the more of a routine you kind of build around exercise is when you really start to feel those benefits and see those benefits. So whether you get in at the gym, or you got to mix it up and do some at home, or you're all home, all gym, whatever it is, I think you get the point if you're listening. It's just the main point with this episode is you just do what you can and take it seriously, and you won't regret it. What do you think?
I think we're of very similar mind. It's like we planned out this back and forth super well. I'm the strength coach for a blind baseball team right now, and that's exactly what I did. I was like, these guys may want to do a home workout sometimes, or life happens, and that so the gym dominant group might have to do a home workout, and then vice versa. The more home dominant group, they might want to mix it up and hit the gym. So I actually have those optional home or gym workouts built into each of those groups, because it's true. Like, if you're just like, man, I feel like a different environment today, I'm going to take the extra steps in order to make sure I can get into the gym. That happens and is very beneficial. And then people who are just like, I can't make it to the gym today, they still had a home workout option. It is all about just accumulated work, about whatever you can get done. So I was lifting stones that I made myself in my garage, and like opening up my hamstrings, and our dog helping me, foam roll and do yoga and, get these positions available, or doing, YouTube yoga and hoping that it was more audibly described and different things like that in order to even prepare for these higher level strongman competitions, just because those are my circumstances. So you can definitely accomplish a heck of a lot. It just takes that bit of effort and consistency, like you talked about. And I actually neglected, but I need to be brave here. It is a little bit embarrassing, but my first time ever in a gym, I was sighted and everything. It was just like little nerdy kid Evan. The high school football coaches had us come in when we were like 8th grade, and I wasn't allowed to play football because I was too small. But I wanted to get stronger for basketball, so I didn't get bullied in basketball, of all things. And they're going through, and we're going to different stations. They're teaching us how to do each of the lifts, and I come to the clean and press, where the coach is like, all right, pull the bar up to your shoulders and then use your legs and put it overhead. So I barely get it to my shoulders, and I'm like all rickety and shaking. I try to shove it over my head, and it stops just above my head. I hit myself in the head, hit myself in the shoulders, and drop the bar just in a daze. And he just goes, just get out of here. So if anybody listening to this, or they know one who is just worked up about going to the gym, embarrassing themselves, you will not do worse than my first time in the gym, and you get a heck of a lot further after that. So just take that into consideration.
Oh, yeah, man. I remember kind of similar for football. It would be the summer. It was 8th grade going into 9th grade. I was going to try out for football, and they had you could go to the gym in the summertime, and I had never really lifted weights ever either. And then I'm in there with these high school seniors who are, power cleaning like over 300 pounds and bench pressing over 400 pounds. And then I'm like doing, the bar basically, feeling like a chump, but then by the time I was a senior, I definitely wasn't power cleaning over 300 or bench pressing, that much. But, I by the time I graduated, my best power clean was 260, and my best bench was 275.
And those are legitimate weights. There's very few people, even adults, full grown, who can do that.
That's what annoys me. It's like my strength peaked when I was like 17. So and that's just is what it is. I could beat it. I could. I know that I have no excuse not to. But my workouts have changed a lot in the sense that now it's more so for cardio health, mental health. I won't lie, the vanity of it, just staying in a certain physique, energy levels. I have bad knees, so I like to work out and do kind of rehab exercises to, increase my range of motion. I want to be able to have longevity, with my knee joints. I don't want to have my mom has had both of her knees replaced. I'm trying to put that off as long as I can, things like that. So my whole vibe of the gym has changed. And I think that's pretty normal. I think, so you don't have to, when you're setting your goals or setting out why you want to work, it doesn't have to be like, oh, I need to train for this strongman event. I need to train for this marathon. I need to get a 6-pack for the summer. It doesn't have to be like that. Your goals could be very simple. Your goals could be, I want to be able to, like you said with the lady that you helped, who you helped her be able to sit up easier and stand up easier.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's things like that. It's like, oh, when you're a grandparent, do you want to have energy to play with your grandkids, or do you want to be kind of locked into the couch, and like those types of things? You know, you can have different reasonings for, you know, why you exercise. And that's kind of the beauty of it.
Yeah. And that's why I love talking through people's goals with them and really get to the base of what they actually want to do. I've had people where it's like, okay, we're going to have you deadlift. I know you don't give a darn about how much you can deadlift. You're never going to brag about this or, you know, obsess over it unhealthily. But this is because you're going to have your 3-year-old grandkid running at you and want you to pick them up. And if you aren't strong enough to hinge over and pick them up, then you don't get the most that you feel you can out of being a grandparent. That's something you really want to do. So we're going to build you up in your upper back and your glutes and your hamstrings and all that stuff with these movements. So then you get to enjoy life and that aspect of it in that way. So that's the beauty of, you know, New Year's coming up and us being able to set those goals and think about what performance goals and things we want to chase, because it's going to allow for all those other wonderful things.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. And also it just struck me, and we can't end the episode without talking about this. The importance of diet and pulling all this off, you know. And I know that's a whole nother episode,
podcast
basically.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But in terms of just reinforcing, you know, maybe if someone's uneducated about the importance of diet, if they're interested in, let's say we introduce someone into the idea of getting into the gym and they want to get, you know, build some muscle. What should they know about diet? Just like the basics of it.
Yeah. So I would start learning more about what macronutrients are present in the foods that you're eating, and then learn how to become fuller with healthier foods. That's going to be very important, because a lot of times people, especially adults, you know what's unhealthy and you know what's more healthy. And it's just about making that appropriate choice. Now with the blind community, it's much more complicated. And I'm really happy you brought this up, because it is the other half of the puzzle. I'm going to be starting to produce some basic fitness and nutrition, mostly nutrition lectures. And those will all be free on my YouTube. I just really want to put those out there. And I have several different articles about nutrition, but I'm going to lay it out a little bit more basically and talk about accessibility tools like a talking food scale and things like that. But I would urge people, especially if they're starting to get to the gym, lift some weights, even if they don't want to get too bulky or anything like that, but upping their protein, because that is going to cost a lot to digest, but it's also going to help you maintain muscle mass. So that's then going to be able to keep your furnace burning nice and hot as well. So learning more and more about protein sources, carbohydrate sources, fat sources, and being able to know more, and then hopefully follow along, and I can do a good job serving the community by bringing out more applicable, accessible nutrition information, then that will all help them to be able to do that. But again, going back to the whole, you probably know what's the healthy choice here. A big trick I like for people at restaurants, people are like, I don't know, there's so many different things, I don't know what's the best one. It's like, look for, I don't remember who I stole this trick from, but like try to find 3 different things that sound good on the menu that you're like, I want to eat that. And then just pick the healthiest of the 3. And that is going to, 80-20 rule, give you a ton of the benefit without having to hyperfixate on anything and everything. So a little bit more protein in your day and have that be more dominant in your diet and like a mainstay. And then just make the healthier choice when you have different choices.
Yeah, great. You're great. And I know you could have talked about everything we talked about today. I know Evan could have talked about for 5 hours on each topic. It's kind of painful to have to summarize these things in such a condensed way.
Well, there's also enough footage of me yapping on the internet, so people can find more stuff if necessary.
Exactly. Yeah, this is just a little teaser. If you really want the in-depth kind of Evan summary of these things, and from Kane and Able Fitness, just click on the show description. Again, I'll have links to the website, your YouTube, Instagram. There you can access those articles you mentioned, and you can also get things as they're posted. So make sure to give Evan a follow. And reach out to him if you have any questions too. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Because I know it's not easy. You know, lately with this podcast, I'm trying to come up with practical ways to help the blindness community. And fitness is one that I think is underutilized and under talked about. And I think you're the perfect example, Evan, because you are legitimately strong as hell. It blows my mind hearing that you can deadlift over 600 pounds. Yeah, it just kind of pumps me up, and I hope it pumps other people up. And, you know, if you're a dude listening to this, you know, don't underestimate the power of lifting weights and what it can do in terms of making you feel more masculine, increasing your confidence. It'll help your game with the ladies. You know, it'll help. It'll do so much for you. So yeah, don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on the gym. Don't sleep on exercising. You know, and with that, I'll leave it with you, Evan. Is there anything you wanted to plug or add to what we mentioned?
I think you did a really good job summing it up. I have different services. I don't even know how many at this point. I feel like I always forget something, but I'm very passionate about working with kids as well. And so I get to talk at different schools for the blind, be brought in for different conferences like AER and the International O&M Online Symposium, things like that. So if anybody has like an organization where they would want to put together a seminar for their blind community around them, to be able to have me come in and teach a fitness seminar, which I always try to include one-on-one sessions as well, that can be done. Just make sure you reach out to me. I also do one-on-one coaching, like I mentioned, purchasable, specialized online programs, ton of different free articles, social media, newsletter, all that fun stuff. So just try to reach out and connect, and I'll do my best to keep everybody updated with everything.
Sounds great, man. Yeah, a lot to dive into. We just kind of scratched the surface in this discussion, you know, and maybe I'll have you back on and we can kind of dive deeper into the diet aspect of things. But yeah, man, I absolutely love this conversation. It got me hyped up. I think I'm gonna try to ride this inspiration wave while I have it, and see if I can create a SMART goal for myself, and get maybe my strength up and something. Maybe my deadlift. Maybe my deadlift goal should be. I'm gonna say it right now. My deadlift goal in 2025 is I want to be able to do 405.
4 wheels. That's way higher than average.
Yeah,
I love it. I'm excited to help keep you accountable.
Yeah. 405. Yeah, 4 on each side. You know, it just seems, I like a good even number. It looks like a substantial amount of weight, you know. So that's going to be my goal. Wish me luck. But yeah, thanks, Evan, man. And thanks for coming on the podcast.
Of course. Appreciate you.